Welcome to Modern Psychedelics, where we explore the transformations made possible through intentional engagement with psychedelics. This podcast will help you integrate high consciousness living into the everyday and deepen the work ignited by altered states. You can expect balanced and grounded conversations around therapeutic, ceremonial, and recreational containers. My name is Lana Pribic, your host and guide. I am a 3-time certified professional life coach, and I work with people who want to integrate higher levels of consciousness into their daily lives so they can feel more peace, fulfillment, and connection. After all, our time here on Earth is so brief, so let's make sure we're really living. The song you hear is called Lost Horizon by Peace Sign. All right, let's journey. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. So I'm so excited to be back in podcasting for you guys because we've just taken a little 2-week summer break, a little summer vacation for me and the team. So I'm happy to be back with you today. I have a episode that I'm really excited about. Honestly, I'm really excited about. It's going to seem a little bit left field for modern psychedelics, but I just find that the topic of gut health and nutrition is kind of inseparable from taking the path of healing and transformation with psychedelics. I know that I personally have made profound and significant changes in my diet, in my lifestyle, in what I eat, in how I eat, and how I relate to food in tandem and parallel to my journey with psychedelics. And a lot of that has come from, going on diets before the ayahuasca ceremonies and noticing just how differently my body feels or how addicted I am to certain foods. It's come from getting very clear messages during ceremonies that it's time to look at your gut health. And that's actually what led me to work with today's guest, who is Krista. I'm going to intro her in just a moment, but I want to just speak a little bit about why I chose to bring this topic to you guys today. So I decided to work with Krista because I got a very clear message that I need to address my digestion and gut health because in a ayahuasca ceremony, I purged the kale that I had for lunch, and the message was very clear that there are certain foods that my body does not want to eat. And then more recently, after my 5-MeO ceremony, I let go of caffeine. I significantly reduced my sugar intake, and I've just been on a really, really powerful journey of changing my diet and changing my relationship to food. And it's played a massive role in how I show up, in the work that I do, in how I feel about myself, in my sleep. Honestly, it's just inseparable from all of this. In addition, I have a few clients who over the years have been in a similar position where they have a psychedelic experience. They become more connected with themselves. They want to love themselves more. They want to appreciate their body more. They want to be more connected with themselves, and they want to take this journey of improving their nutrition, or more specifically improving their gut health, and they're just not sure where to start. So that's kind of what I had in mind in creating this episode. Don't worry, I'm not speaking on nutrition because you guys know I am not an expert. I mean, I know a lot through my own health, but I'm definitely not an expert. I did want to bring an expert, holistic nutritionist, Krista Znebel. Oh, I'm so sorry, Krista, if I didn't pronounce your name correctly. I never asked you actually how to pronounce it, but Krista is a registered holistic nutritionist and founder of Sprout Your Health. I worked with Krista for 6 sessions after that ayahuasca ceremony that I had. She loves to share, educate, and encourage people struggling with digestive issues, anxiety, and burnout to make the connection between what they eat, how they think, and how they feel both mentally and physically. She offers affordable and customized virtual one-on-one nutrition programs that are easy to implement and designed to help clients overcome their frustrating digestive symptoms for good by implementing a natural root cause approach that addresses both the mind and body. I really am happy that Krista came on today. We talked about the connection between gut health and mental health and the importance of focusing on your gut health when you are on a emotional healing journey, when you're bringing a lot of trauma to the surface to be reprocessed, just the importance of taking care of your gut, which is very much connected to your serotonin production. She shares some studies with us about how depression is actually connected to poor gut health. It's going to just blow your mind. I promise you this is very, very relevant. I think that the heart of this conversation is when she shares about 5 simple, affordable, easy tips to implement for anyone who might be experiencing symptoms of poor gut health. She talks about what symptoms of poor gut health look like and what one can actually look forward to when they decide to improve their gut health. So while this is a very much a gut health focused episode, it is also focused on healthy eating, nutrition, and just treating your body with love so that you can show up in this world and not just feel good, but do good work and have good relationships. That's really what it's all about. I don't think at any point in this episode we actually talked about the physical appearance aspect of eating healthy. Like, both Krista and I are really not coming at this topic of nutrition and gut health from a perspective of wanting to look good or lose weight or any of that. Those are just natural benefits that happen when you take this journey. But I will say that addressing my gut health, and it's very much still a journey for me. Okay, I'm still very much on it. I've been on it for the past year or so. But this is something that has just greatly improved my life. And also it's given me an opportunity to speak about something that I am so passionate about in life, which is healthy eating, cooking from scratch, connecting to the foods that we eat. I don't get to talk about this so much, but I love it. I love it, love it, love it. So I'm so excited to share it with you. I hope that it inspires you, and I hope that you enjoy Krista's energy. She is very, very grounded and provides us with so much information. I absolutely loved working with her, and I still to this day will DM her and ask her all of my nutrition questions because she's just such a wonderful wealth of information. So thank you so much, Krista, for coming on. And to my beautiful audience, enjoy this one. Welcome back. And I hope that you're enjoying your summer season. All right, I'll catch you on the other side with Krista. Welcome to the show, Krista.
Thanks for having me, Lana. I'm super excited to be here today.
I think you're actually the first person on the podcast who doesn't engage with psychedelic, which is really cool. So yeah, please introduce yourself to our audience.
Yeah, so, well, just a little note on that. I do think it's something that perhaps will come for me in the future. I think it's just something that I haven't really dove into too much yet. But there's a lot more science and research coming out about it. And I'm one of those people that when that kind of research is there to back it up, why not try it? So
love that for you.
First person I'll ask.
Yes.
So my name is Krista, and I'm a registered holistic nutritionist. And I specialize in digestive health and the mind-gut connection, which I think is becoming a much more popular topic that has a lot more awareness around it these days. And I help clients essentially go through the same process that I helped you go through, Lana, which is to become more aware and in tune with their body and how foods make them feel, and to learn how to listen to those symptoms that your body's giving you so that you can rebuild and strengthen your gut to have a better resilience when it comes to coming in contact with, parasites, viruses, bacteria, having a stronger immune system, more clarity, stronger mental health, and that type of thing.
Yeah, I love that. Because we did an elimination diet. That was the main tool that we used. Maybe you can explain what that is to people, and then also let people know what other kinds of tools or processes you use in working with clients to help them reach that nutrition and health that they're looking for.
Yeah, so when it comes to people's nutritional habits and how they can improve their body, it is very individualized. I do usually like to do some kind of intake with people and not want to use a cookie cutter approach that you may get with other practitioners in other fields. So diet is very specific for each and everyone's body. And so an elimination diet is a really great tool to help you grow your mind-body connection and bring your body into a state of balance. So I know when you had come to me, I can't remember what you had just done, but you had just come back from an experience in Costa Rica and were looking to kind of take the next step in learning about your body and improving upon your health. And so the first thing that you do in that process is bringing your body back to a state of balance. And so this happens by eliminating a lot of the inflammatory foods that are in our modern diet these days. I think many people have heard of inflammatory foods being, sugar, alcohol, processed foods, refined carbs and fats and that type of thing. But when you cut those out, it really gives your body a chance to come back to that baseline, which is really so powerful because that's where you start understanding how your body really should feel. And when we have those foods in our diet regularly, we forget how good we can feel. So that whole process of bringing the body back into balance is kind of that first step to understand really how your body feels and how it should feel. And then when you bring foods back in, which is that reintroduction of food in an ordered process, and journaling and paying attention to the symptoms that you're feeling, that's when you really gain the awareness around this food makes me feel this way. Perhaps I shouldn't have it now. Doesn't mean you won't have it in the future, but whatever your body's going through at the time, it might just not be supportive of the transition that you're looking for in terms of improving your gut health at this time.
What was your personal journey of falling into this type of work? I think you told me that you had some of your own health struggles, and that was kind of what guided you to do this kind of work?
Yes. Yeah. I think so many practitioners in this space, most of us have some kind of journey that we've gone through ourselves. And, I didn't really know it at the time, but I think going through that experience for me is what I needed to go through for my own spiritual development, but also to be able to help people go through this process now as well. Done a complete kind of 360 in my life. About 5 years ago, I was working in corporate real estate in Toronto, building condos, and my health pretty much came to a halt. I was experiencing crippling anxiety and panic attacks. My gut was in really bad shape. I was dealing with chronic yeast overgrowth at the time, which led to, more anxiety, skin issues, poor mood. I pretty much just had to take a break from everything, and I took some time off of work. And that's kind of when I really reassessed what is important in my life, and it's not worth a job or money to go through the stress to my body and the impact that it was having. At that point, I decided to go back to school for nutrition, I think mainly to figure out what was happening within my own body. But there always kind of was something, I knew before, I really wanted to just help people learn how to eat food that's healthy for them, because I think we are led with marketing these days and diets and what is healthy and not healthy for people. So I think it was a little bit of both that kind of got me into this space. And then I actually, just as I started school, got another diagnosis for SIBO, which is small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, which is essentially what causes IBS. IBS is a diagnosis of symptoms. It's not really the cause of it. So as science has progressed, we found out this is what the issue is. And so this is really what I specialize in now, with the greater context of gut health as well, because I have gone through so many other things with my own gut. And it's just kind of been a journey. I've learned a lot, obviously through my schooling, but I've done a lot of kind of more spiritual, personal development work along the side, and nervous system regulation, which I think is kind of a bit of what do you want to call it, a word that you hear a lot about these days or see on Instagram. But regulating your nervous system plays such an important role in your digestive system and digestive health. And until you can kind of learn to master that, it's difficult to overcome a digestive issue for good, right? It may come back if you haven't resolved that piece. That kind of brings me to where I am today. And now I'm doing this because I just really want to help people who've gone through the same kind of issues and transitions that I have.
You mentioned that the journey to better health and nutrition has been a process of spiritual growth for you. How do you see the connection between spirituality and physical health and, what we feed our bodies?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think as you become more aware of your body through spiritual development, when I talk about that, meditation, for example, is a really great one. I didn't have awareness of my body before I learned how to meditate. And I think a lot of people probably struggle with that when we have lots of trauma in the past, we, everything goes into our head and we kind of leave our body, and then we don't know how to listen to the signs and symptoms that our body is telling us. So I think a great first step for people who are, looking to improve their gut health is to work on that mind-body connection in terms of feeling into your body. And so body scan meditation was like really a big piece of the puzzle for me, because it allowed me to feel, when you're lying there, feeling parts of your body without touching, let's say, your mid-thigh that like you probably never really paid attention to before. But when you start building that connection of the mind and places in your body and focusing on them and learning to do that better, you're able to then pay attention to symptoms that you're experiencing more that you might have through digestive issues or even mental issues that come through the foods that you're eating. So I think, to kind of tie back to that question, like the foods that you eat do impact the way you feel, and then can impact the way that you focus through spirituality and meditation. And so, yeah, I guess I'm going in circles there, but I do think it plays or sets a good base for learning to really understand how your body and your mind are connected.
Yeah, it really depends like how you view spirituality and what that means to you. For example, if spirituality is a sense of connection to yourself and the world around you, then taking care of your nutrition and taking care of what you're putting into your body, it creates this like greater connection to yourself, which in and of itself could be a spiritual practice of getting to know yourself, of listening to yourself. What was it like for you? So I came out of a ayahuasca experience where it was like very clear to me, like I purged up this kale that I had for lunch, and I got such a clear message that I need to figure out my gut health and figure out my digestion, and that there's very clearly some foods that my body does not want me to eat. What was it like for you, who, isn't necessarily in the world of psychedelics, to have someone come to you and say, hey, I had this plant medicine journey and I got this message and I want to improve my gut health? What was that like for you? Do you have a lot of clients like that?
I would say you're probably the first. The thing that I loved about working with you and your journey was like you were so open to it, and you were like, I just want to learn and improve. And you like took the whole process and like really dove into it. Whereas I think there's a lot of resistance from people when it comes to changing their diet. It's, I can't do that for 2 weeks. I can't give up coffee or chocolate. That's so hard, right? And it's a lot of the mindset that like we have to do a lot of mindset work to help get through that phase. Whereas with you, you knew what you had to do. And that you weren't really questioning it. You just were like, I'm going to do this, and dove like straight in and learned, what foods felt really good for you, and like learning new recipes and stuff, right? Did I think it was a different type of intro to working with a client? Yes. But I, having, again, dove into that more spiritual realm, like it wasn't like an abnormal thing to me. Like I was kind of like more intrigued, like that's pretty amazing that you can have a one experience and just know that you need to make these changes. So I think, whether you do that and you have a message come through, or just start to pay attention to your body signals and understand that something is wrong and that something needs to be changed and addressed. Like you're coming from two different places, but you're kind of going to the same place, right? Different journeys there.
Totally, yeah. Yeah, many roads to the same path. I think because I had done so many ayahuasca diets in the past and had to give up so many foods in the past in preparation for that, that definitely removed some of the resistance. But that elimination diet was super tough. It was really hard. And you were so helpful in guiding me towards delicious recipes, because I think you're also quite a foodie. And like personally, like when I have a meal that isn't delicious, it kind of ruins my day. I only want to eat really delicious foods. And what I loved about working with you was that it just opened up the realm of possibilities for me around eating both gut healthy and nutritious foods and it being absolutely delicious. And we're so lucky now that there's so many amazing products with like avocado oils and, gluten-free items and all that stuff. But yeah, I've been able to experience such a like longevity in the results, and I still make so many of the things that I made during the elimination diet. Yeah, we worked together about a year ago now, it would be.
And I wanted to add to that too. I think so many people don't realize too, like when you learn to eat a different way by having to go through something like that, then you can then bring that forward. Like people don't realize they will bring those meals forward because they end up liking them. And you don't really, until you go through the experience, you don't really know or understand that. Because when you do cut out foods like sugar or artificially flavored ingredients for a bit, and then you bring them back in at the end, you're like, wow, like your taste buds pick up on the fact that it's way too sweet or the flavor is like way too fake, but you don't get that piece without the elimination. So there's so many, different things about like the symptoms that you're experiencing, your mental clarity, and then like how your taste buds are reacting, right? I think it's very eye-opening, the process, but you are right. There's so many products today that are a lot cleaner because I think there is demand for it and now.
Yeah, to kind of connect nutrition with psychedelics, I feel like for me personally, like working with you was similar to working with a like integration or preparation coach or a life coach, right? Like similar to like how my clients would work with me, like working with you for me was similar to that because it just enhanced the process of using psychedelics for growth and healing and transformation. Because it's funny, like these medicines they'll test you if you have to go through a diet and then like reintroduce stuff. But as you become like more sensitive and more open to life and also your body, you start to notice the effect that different foods have on you. You mentioned sugar, right? When we were working together, I was really struggling with sugar, and that was something I wasn't really able to resolve with you. After 5-MeO-DMT, I became so incredibly sensitive to sugar that now my sugar intake has gone down so much. So for me, like, it's just, like, yeah, like I can't eat the foods I once used to. I just notice it so much more. So for me, like, psychedelics and nutrition have been such parallel journeys. That's why I'm so excited to have you on the podcast today and sharing tips with people, because I know that people listening can also relate to this idea of having such a greater awareness of everything open up to them, including how foods affect them. So let's talk about gut health, because it's so important. There's like the brain-gut connection, right? We always hear about that. So can you tell us a little bit about what we mean when we say gut health? Why is it important? Why is everyone talking about it? Why should people care about gut health?
It's a huge topic. And I think a lot of people have heard about it these days in terms of the importance of it. And really, when we talk about the gut, it's, our large and our small intestine, which is where we digest and absorb our food. And a lot of people, I think, maybe have heard of the word gut microbiome before. And what that is, it's a collection of bacteria in our gut. So, we talk about ecosystems having all different parts that kind of work synergistically together. The microbiome is kind of the same way. There's bacteria, yeasts, and there's balances of good and bad bacteria. And for a healthy gut, we want to have a good balance with lots of plant fibers feeding these bacteria, because they then produce synergistic benefits for our body. So some of them will produce vitamins and minerals for us, for example. Really, like the way that we're feeding our body, like every single thing we put in our mouth impacts these bacteria in our gut, and then how they then help us. And that's really where it comes down to in terms of eating a variety of plants to feed these microbes. And so they also can impact our neurotransmitter production, and neurotransmitters like serotonin. A lot of people have heard of that with depression. It's neurotransmitters impact our mood. So the gut and the brain are very connected through the vagus nerve, and the signals kind of go back and forth. The brain controls the gut, and the gut controls the brain, and the microbes in your gut play a really important role in that two-way conversation with your brain. So an example I like to give too is when it comes to depression now, like a lot of people are familiar with depression. There's so much science that's come out in the last 10 to 15 years now about depression actually being a condition of inflammation in the gut. So yes, talk therapy can help, but that should be, like a later on approach if you're really struggling. Let's look at the gut. Let's reduce that inflammation inflammation, because what happens, and this is what's, I think, different in holistic medicine versus conventional, is like our body is one connected unit. So when that inflammation in the gut circulates through our blood to the brain, and these days we have things like leaky gut and leaky brain, which are little holes in the lining of those areas where they shouldn't be, the inflammation can then go into the brain and create an inflamed brain. And then that's where we're experiencing a lot of mental health diseases and issues, I guess we would say imbalances. Really, like when it comes to gut health, it controls pretty much how you feel on a day-to-day basis, strengthening your immune system, your energy levels, your hormones, which play a big role, especially in a woman's body. So, just eating real whole food, that you're switching up regularly, right? And not eating the same specific foods all the time is what will help feed these bacteria so that you're feeling your best and have energy to exercise, and maybe don't need to have 2 coffees to make it through the day, right? There are ways to live life fully with vitality without having to have all these crutches, I think, that so many of us are used to having. So it does take time to get there. The body takes time to incorporate what you're feeding it. And then, you have to regrow certain bacteria to strengthen your gut. And you do that with, prebiotic foods and probiotic foods that I know we talked about. It's one of those things where, let's say you've had a psychedelic experience and then you're going to start working on your gut to make sure that you are patient with yourself and that it's not going to happen overnight. It may take, 3 to 6 months before you start seeing noticeable effects, and then to keep going because you're just going to keep feeling better. And that's probably where you're at right now, because it's been almost, I think, a year since you've gone through the elimination diet.
Okay, I have so much to comment on with what you just said about the connection between gut health and depression. Wow, that's amazing. And it makes it so clear why someone who is on a emotional healing or a spiritual healing or a trauma healing journey would want to take seriously their gut health, right? Like, we want to create the conditions for ourselves to be able to do this really challenging, tumultuous, long work of healing our trauma and stepping into a more empowering and beautiful relationship with life. Like, you just explained so perfectly why it's important to address our gut health. And I love what you said about how things take time. The last episode I just released was all around playing the long game and sticking to things and sticking to the process for the long term and not giving up. Nutrition has been such a journey for me personally ever since I was in my teens, because I suffered from horrible cystic acne. I did the naturopath and like the candida diets and all the things. And it's just such a journey because there's like always a way that you can improve. Nutrition is truly a path of mastery. I'm sure even someone like yourself is constantly working to improve her health and the way that she eats. So yeah, I love that you put that out there for people to take it slow and be patient and just commit to the process. I will say, a year now after working with you, I don't drink coffee anymore. I don't take sugar in my decaf coffee in the morning. When I do, on those days that I do, I followed your tip of having a fat. So I'll eat some nuts before the coffee. I don't have gluten 80% of the time. I still do sometimes because I'm European and it's hard not to. I mean, it's just like these really simple things. The chewing, right? I think you told me, like, when you think you're done chewing, chew 20 more times. There's just been so many things that felt really frustrating at the beginning because you're like, holy, I have so many changes I need to make. But just like focusing on one at a time and committing to it over the long term is really how people see success, I think. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I agree. And to your point with, it does seem like a lot. And I think if, in an ideal world, if I could see people every week for 6 months, that would be a great time frame to like work through things. It doesn't work out in terms of the time people have and the money for programs and stuff, right? But I think what you did was great, which is you just take the time to implement them even after we're done working together. And it's bringing that awareness to those pieces. But one thing I did want to mention in terms of, going back to the other point with patience and patience with the changes that are going to happen through your body is recognizing and understanding as well that you go through changes throughout your life and that there is no one diet that you should follow for the rest of your life. And I don't want to say diet, whatever nutritional changes, for example. So if if you feel really good eating less meat, for example, that doesn't mean 5 years down the road, if you become deficient in something and you need to eat meat, that like you should feel bad about it, right? Like our bodies are always changing. There's no constant in life, right? So it's understanding what your body needs, and the more in tune you become and you're able to kind of follow those intuitive signals, then you kind of follow that. Like you said, it's a journey, and it will be a journey through your whole life because you're changing as you age, right?
So perfectly said. Yeah, committing to your health and nutrition is committing to a lifetime of it, because you're not just going to have it all figured out one day. Your body will continue to change as you age, as your stress levels fluctuate, as your lifestyle changes. Yeah, so well said. Let's get back to gut health, because I think that it's such an interesting topic in terms of the connection that the gut has to mental health and supporting one's healing journey. If someone out there is listening right now and they're like, wait, what? I don't understand if I need to address my gut health or not. What are some signs that indicate poor gut health?
Yeah, no, that is a good question. I feel like even in my circle of friends, sometimes I'm like, I'm always the person like suggesting things, and people will be like, oh yeah, no, I don't need that. It's like, you gotta kind of pay attention, because these symptoms you're describing to me mean you need to, make some changes or whatever. I think really it's the severity and frequency of symptoms is what you need to pay attention to with your body. When it comes to digestive stuff, that's usually where we start, right? So if you're experiencing bloating or lots of gas and burping or farting, or, when it comes to bowel movements, more constipation or more diarrhea, like starting to check your bowel movements in the toilet bowl, which is, something a lot of people probably don't do and probably aren't comfortable with. But I encourage you to do it, because it's the best indicator of what's going on in your gut. And so, you can Google the Bristol stool chart, which is a 6 or 7 stage stool chart, which describes like the different, they're not phases, but the different types and where you should be at. So if it's, too hard and too lumpy, you have to strain, or if it's less than 1 a day, that's constipation. If it's mushy and you have to wipe a lot, or watery, that's diarrhea. You want to be somewhere in the middle where it's nice and smooth and you generally don't have to wipe too much. And if, your bowel movements are not in that ideal bowel movement category for like most of the week, your body's telling you something, right? Like maybe if they are more mushy, like maybe you need more fiber. There's, some simple changes, and then there's more drastic changes. So it kind of depends on like where you're at. But the symptoms that you're experiencing, if they're happening, 2 to 3 times a week or daily, then that's something you want to start paying attention to. If you, let's say, get heartburn once a month, maybe you're just eating, a more inflammatory food that you're reacting to, and that's not as much of a concern. It's the daily. I think the daily and the biweekly are like multiple times a week that you need to start paying attention to. And it's not just digestive symptoms. Like I think a lot of people think, oh, I don't have digestive issues, I'm fine. But then they have eczema, or they have like really itchy skin, or they have migraines, right? And those are all connected to what you eat as well. So it's not just, the standard or typical digestive issues that you want to look out for. It's you can react in your body to a food in any way. Like joint pain could be one too, or muscle aches, right? So it's really individual to like your body. And so that's why that elimination diet kind of is a good bringing back to balance point, because you can understand, hey, maybe those headaches I'm getting like regularly are related to a food, because when I stopped eating it, I don't get them anymore.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That was so illuminating when I did the elimination diet, because I typically get very painful menstrual cycles. And I got my cycle during the elimination diet, and I was like, wow, I have no symptoms, none, no cramps, no headaches, no bloating. It was amazing. And I even notice now, like when I have a more naughty month of eating before my cycle, the symptoms will be much worse. So every time I get my period now, I'm kind of like, okay, now I know like how I've been eating. Like if it's been a little bit more naughty or a little bit more gut healthy, I can kind of gauge where I'm at. Brain fog, that's a symptom too, right? I don't get brain fog anymore ever. It's amazing as someone who used to struggle with that.
I think brain fog is one of those ones where like so many people don't really know what it feels like to be normal anymore because it's just like, it's the norm for them and they can't, have that clarity, or they lose their train of thought a lot, or, you walk into the other room and you're like, why did I come here? Like that's brain fog.
Did you know that your problems don't come from the situations or circumstances themselves? Your problems are likely coming from how you approach them. More specifically, your problems might be coming from the level of consciousness that you approach them with. It's pretty simple. Here's how it works. Anytime something happens to you, you can approach the situation from various levels of consciousness. You can come from a low level of consciousness that perpetuates the problem and keeps you stuck, drained, hopeless, and under stress. Or you can come from a high level of consciousness that helps you move forward because you can more easily tap into creative solutions and access your intuition. The good news is that at any given time, you can choose how you show up and therefore have a massive impact on how your life unfolds. The trick is to be aware of all of the options available to you, which most of us aren't. We're stuck in our default modes, which is why most of us feel stuck and unable to move forward. But that job that you hate, your codependent relationship, or the numbing anxiety of not knowing your purpose in life can be the exact thing that moves you forward and gives you clarity, as long as you're approaching it from a high level of consciousness. In my coaching program, I'll help you become hyper aware of your current approach and help you shift to higher levels of consciousness. By addressing those unconscious energy blockages keeping you stuck, we unlock flow, acceptance, peace, and joy in life. And this isn't woo-woo. I use a research-validated coaching method that's benefited thousands worldwide. So whether you're corporate or spiritual or both, this approach offers practical integration into daily life. And it happens to pair brilliantly with psychedelics. High consciousness living is achievable every day, not just during psychedelic experiences. Psychedelics surely illuminate the path, but it's our job to walk it every day. My coaching program will provide you with a grounded and operational way to integrate high consciousness into your daily life. I am currently onboarding new clients into my practice, so if you'd like to learn more about the program, visit modernpsychedelics.net/coaching. And if you're ready to do this work, go ahead and apply now and book a discovery call with me at modernpsychedelics.net/apply. I'll have both of those links in the show notes for you. All right, let's get back to the episode. Yeah, you're kind of just like living in that haze and you don't know that there's anything different. It's kind of associated with very low energy to me.
Yes, yeah. Like a lot of the kind of mental symptoms can be like the migraines, the headaches, the brain fog, anxiety, poor mood, even like poor focus too, like more, not if you have ADHD, but more of that ADHD type of hyper activity as well.
Those are all signs that gut health might be poor. What does healthy digestion and a healthy gut look and feel like? What are some things that people can look forward to if they were to embark on this journey, or signs that you're doing good?
No, it's a really good question. Because I think we always focus on like the negative and it's like, what is the positive? But I think that's a really deep question for me because for so long, I didn't know what normal felt like. And so now to feel it, it's just like, you appreciate it so much more. So for anyone who's had bacterial issues or fungal issues, having a proper bowel movement is like one of the most exciting things. Every day you're like, it's going good. And so that would be, I'd say, the best kind of indicator. But your energy levels, waking up in the morning, not feeling like you need that coffee, I think can be another really good indicator. Skin, like acne on your face or like dry hand, that type of thing. For me, again, who specifically had a lot of pain in my stomach, like no pain in your stomach. You shouldn't have to feel pain or bloated after a meal regularly. And, I know bloating is a huge one for a lot of people too. And you'd mentioned with around your menstrual cycle, like being able to put on jeans that you love without being like, oh my God, these are like way too tight right now.
Yeah, the bloating is so interesting because I remember when the bloating went down, my body weight dropped about 5 pounds. And it was like the weight that I've kind of been trying to get off, but no matter what I did was working. So it was really fascinating to come to learn that, oh, it was just bloating. It was just bloat that I've been carrying around.
Actually, it's inflammation, right? And I remember when I went through this when I was working, the last career, and I took that time off of work, and I was training for a triathlon, and I thought I was eating so healthy, and I was doing all this exercise, and I was whatever my weight was, I can't remember what it was at the time. And then my naturopath was like, you need to just go for walks, do yoga, don't do any intense exercise. And by just changing my exercise, I lost a lot of that inflammation because my stress went down. Also, the stress had stopped with work because I was off of work. But stress can hold on to inflammation in the body, as well as eating foods that you're sensitive to can create that inflammation in your body. So when, can reduce both of those by cutting out some foods and working on stress reduction would go hand in hand for good gut health, that inflammation kind of just comes off. And I think people are the most surprised at that you really don't have to do, we overwork for trying to lose weight. And it's just do activity that you're enjoying with foods that make you feel good, and you will lose that. But we live in a society now where it's you need to go to hits workouts 5 days a week, right? And that's when you're stressed, that's creating more cortisol in your body, more inflammation, which doesn't help on top of the food piece, right?
So I know that everyone's very unique and everyone has different symptoms and a different plan of action to take if they want to improve their gut health and nutrition, which is why it's very valuable to work one-on-one with someone. But in general, what would you say are 3 to 5 things that most people could apply that are really simple that would help them improve their gut health and digestion?
The first one that I'm sure a lot of people have heard before is just eating some real whole foods and eliminating the inflammatory foods. So it's going to be the sugar, inflammatory fats, right? That's a big one. And I think we maybe talked about this too, is swapping out your poor oils like corn and soy and sunflower, safflower oils. Those are all processed in a way that change the fatty acid structure. There's chemicals added to them that you can absorb into your body, those types of things. Switching those out for the healthier oils, which are going to be your olive oil, your coconut oil, grass-fed butter, and ghee, that type of thing.
I will say, my God, I am so sensitive to the processed oils. If I eat a cracker or something, I really try hard to avoid them. But wow, if I eat something out, or there's those Costco crackers, the gluten-free ones, the yellow label, what is it called? That brand?
Oh my God, the almond.
Yeah. I love those. They're but they have grapeseed oil, right? I bloat up so quickly. It's insane. It's insane. I've also heard that oils should not be purchased in clear containers. They should be in dark containers because the light exposure can make them go rancid.
Yep. Yeah, no, exactly. It's, as a rule of thumb, darker bottles and smaller bottles too. I think we also, if you have a family that you're cooking for and you go through oil quicker, then it's fine. But oils oxidize. That's kind of the nature of the structure of them. So getting smaller bottles more often to keep them fresher can be another kind of important point. But yeah, you also want to look for cold pressed oils. The heat that's used in some of the more inflammatory oils in their processing can change the fatty acid structure, and then that becomes more inflammatory. So cold pressing is more of a pressure extraction than a heat extraction. And then that also keeps more of the raw nutrients from the oil present in the oil as well.
That's such a good tip. That's such a good first place to start, is clean up the oils, stay away from some of the fatty fast food options.
And I just wanted to circle back as you were talking about the oils too, because I remember when we were working together and I think you had done the elimination diet, and then I think you went to a festival, and I remember you came back and you're like, I had to eat at the food truck because it's all they had, and I noticed it so much, and I was like, yes. But those are the important turning moments where oh yeah, okay, now I realize
it's
right?
crazy. I just puff up like a blowfish. Yeah, so good. Yeah. Okay, what else is a starting place for people?
So the next one I would say would be relearning how to read food labels and understanding that anything that has more than 5 ingredients that you can't read or don't know what they are, and then being wary of if they're packaged or not. Those food that for some people are a lot of the staple foods in their diet are probably not as good for them than fresh, real whole foods. So sticking to the outside of the grocery store where things are fresh and they're in the form that they were found in nature so that they're not processed. Obviously, you're not going to be able to avoid processed foods completely. It's unrealistic. But when you do choose those foods, read the ingredient label, get familiar, look for ones that only have a couple ingredients because they're going to feel a lot better in your body than the ones that have 20 ingredients with a lot of, and the other thing too with that is a lot of companies know that the internet has a lot of information on one ingredient. So they'll change the name and it will be disguised as something else. And so it's just best to avoid lots of different ingredients kind of for that reason.
I feel like there's always like a healthy swap you can make. They're obviously going to be more expensive, but for example, like the Chosen Foods avocado oil mayo. Oh my God, so delicious.
Yes.
Instead of getting like a canola oil based mayo, there's always a healthy swap that you can make for the foods that you really love.
I totally agree. And I'm like a huge advocate of that. Like you don't have to give up the foods you love. Just maybe try cooking it. Like French fries, for example, baked oven fries with avocado oil. Those are a lot healthier. There's still potato in their whole food form. They haven't gone through the processing and freezing and everything that like McDonald's would. So there is always an alternative. And we have so many recipes online now available to us. So I think it's just a matter of finding a couple of good, healthier websites that you like that probably have some good options. I'm always happy to help people through Instagram chats and stuff too, if you need a specific recommendation. An app that I really like to use as well with my clients is called Yuka. It's spelled Yuka. And it's an app where you can scan a barcode or take a picture or search a product. And it is based in Canada, so it's more for our Canadian products. And it rates every ingredient and it gives it like, yellow, green, or red, depending on the quality of the ingredient. And if it's like rated like a bad number in a red, then it will have a healthier suggestion. And it's a great way to get familiar with the ingredients, because I think where people get lost at the start is they don't know what's a good ingredient, what's a bad ingredient, right? And it takes time to get there and maybe a bit of research, whereas the app has kind of put everything in one. So you can start understanding like that red ingredient is not great. And then when you go the next time to the store and look at the product that like, you shouldn't get it.
Okay, so that was a few tips there. So we have swap out processed oils for healthy cold pressed oils. We have shop the perimeter of the grocery stores and try to stick to mostly whole foods, which are as close to their raw form from nature as possible. We have learn to read ingredient labels, and you can use that app that you mentioned. And people in the States are so lucky because they have so many more options than us in Canada. Okay, so what else? Where else can people start for gut health?
So focusing on like feeding the good gut bacteria in your gut. So that's your pre and your probiotic foods, right? So your probiotic foods, I think a lot of people have heard about, that's your fermented foods like the sauerkraut, kimchi, miso, those types of things. It's very easy to ferment yourself. And I actually have a fermentation guide that maybe you can link if people want to learn how to ferment foods on their own, because it's also a lot cheaper than buying them in the store.
And more delicious.
And so they provide...
Like when I make my own sauerkraut, it's so much better than the store-bought stuff.
It's so true. And like a key thing to remember also with sauerkraut is fermented food should be cold. It's keeping that bacteria alive. You can buy like sauerkraut in a jar in the aisle of the grocery store, and that's more pickled. So pickled doesn't have the bacteria that fermented has.
Okay.
So be careful with that.
Krista,
you want to look.
I also just got a sourdough starter, so I'm going to try that out. It won't be gluten-free, but I'm curious to see if sourdough homemade bread will sit well with me. So I'll keep you posted on that.
Yeah, please do, because I've heard, I'd met the local sourdough company. I think they're based in Hamilton or something, but they were telling me that they have people who are celiac who can eat their fermented bread, which is a pretty bold statement. A celiac person can eat a sourdough bread. I think if it's done properly and with a good quality wheat, being, let's say, organic, just because a lot of pesticides are sprayed on wheat. And so a lot of people actually are reacting to the pesticides and not the wheat itself.
Yeah, I did get organic flour.
Yeah.
I'll keep you posted.
Yeah. But I'd love to hear because I'm kind of tempted. I think they were tempted.
I know
to
there's
try
some
it after
good
I've
gluten-free
heard a lot of people.
options that nothing beats like a freshly baked loaf of bread. Okay, let's do one more tip for people. So the last one was around feeding the good bacteria, the pre and probiotics. What's one more tip that you can give people for good gut health and digestion? That's just really simple that anyone can do.
And sorry, I did want to just finish off on the other one because we talked about the probiotics, but the prebiotics are just as important. And so the prebiotics are coming from specific fibers. So these are things like garlic and onions and leeks and green banana. You can Google it. There's a list. There's only about 10 or 12 of them, but these really feed the bacteria. So if you're taking a probiotic or eating fermented foods without eating a lot of these prebiotic vegetables, they're not going to have the food to kind of stay alive and grow and make your gut stronger, which is what you'd like to do. So becoming familiar with both pre and probiotic foods, eating them regularly, and that, eating, I guess this could be my last point, is eating the rainbow, eating lots of color and lots of diversity. Something I do see with a lot of my clients is eating similar foods regularly, which I think if you need to do that in order to eat healthier, like as opposed to eating more processed foods, then that's a great starting point. But what happens when you eat the same foods all the time is that you're only feeding those bacteria that like those foods. So you want to diversify and feed as many bacteria in your gut as you can by all the different plant fibers. And so you also get, with different colored fruits and vegetables, phytonutrients, which are really good for our mental health as well. And they are nutrients that science really hasn't, there's research about what they do, but when we look at nutrition labels, they're not included, phytonutrients aren't included, which really play a big role in like how we feel and our vitality. But I'm sure that will come at some point in the future. But that's what you invest when you eat like more processed type of foods, is the phytonutrients in plants.
Yeah, just like intuitively without understanding the science fully, that makes a lot of sense because our gut microbiome is so diverse, right? It has so much going on in there that like the more diverse of a diet we can feed it, like the more likely it is to thrive. Is that kind of on the right track?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. I love it. Yeah. And then another one that you shared with me, I think we kind of touched on it, which is like totally free. You don't have to spend any money, is just chewing your food very thoroughly, which makes sense. Like it just makes it easier on your digestion. It doesn't have to do as much work. And then you also taught me to do liquids away from meals, not drink liquids 30 minutes before or 30 minutes after, which I've been working on slowly. That one was so hard, but I think I've gotten a bit better. What's the reason for that we don't want to drink with our meals?
So this one is a little bit more specific depending on your body. So for people who have low stomach acid, you don't want to like dilute that stomach acid while you're eating because you need the acid to break down protein. And if you're deficient in it, your digestive capacity is decreased. So it's helping to improve your digestion in that sense. So I wouldn't say that like every person should do that, but I will say that low stomach acid is much more widespread than people realize that it is. And because stress plays a big role in your stomach acid. And again, eating foods you're sensitive to can also reduce your stomach acid. I think it would apply to more people than expected, but I don't want to blanket that for every single person. But when it comes to chewing, yes, that's something everyone can work on. And I think I said this to you, like we learn our eating habits from our parents and we don't really know anything different, right? Like you just pick up like at the speed. I don't know about you, like my dad would finish his meal in under 10 minutes. So you are like rushing to like finish with your parents when you're a kid and you don't know any better. And it's like when you start learning like this is the way to chew fully and how much more time it takes to eat a meal, it's oh my God, no wonder maybe I feel so bloated after a meal, right? Because chewing is the first step of digestion. It plays a role in carbohydrate digestion. So chewing releases saliva, which has enzymes to break down carbohydrates, but it also breaks food into small pieces. So if you have food that you're not chewing very well going into your digestive system in larger pieces, it's going to be fermented. It can create gas and that can lead to bloating or farting, a more gaseous state. And then over time, if you're eating rushed with not chewing your food, like that imbalance from the fermentation of bacteria can create a dysbiotic state in your gut, which is maybe when more bad bacteria bacteria start overpopulating the good bacteria. Yeah, chewing plays a really big role in how the food's being digested and absorbed, but also like it comes down to surface area too. Like you can extract more nutrients when there's more surface area. So you want to chew more, right?
Okay, perfect. Those are some great tips. I feel like it can start getting so expensive and pricey to go down this path of improving your health and nutrition. And in some ways, it's like a cost you just have to bear. And like you just have to find money in your budget and let other things come out of sacrifice if you're serious about it. But I think when we are cooking from scratch and making things from scratch and really fall in love with the process of cooking, it can be a little gentler on your wallet. I love to cook. It's my favorite activity. You love to cook, but not everyone does. How do you think that people can start to fall in love with cooking and making things from scratch and just connecting to the food that they eat in that way? I ask that because some of my clients go through that. They're like, I want to do this, but I hate cooking and I don't enjoy it, right? How do I fall in love with it?
I really love that question. I don't think people think about that or ask that enough. So 2 things I would say with it is, one is like bringing joy into cooking. So if you love music or you love a podcast, put that on while you're cooking so that it's not, oh, this is like this activity that I have to do, right? Make it fun, dance around the kitchen. And then the other thing that I think is so powerful that usually I work with clients on in terms of mindset work, but is like the gratitude of eating. You know, there's the gratitude of like life, which can help with mindset. But then when you're eating specifically, like taking the time before your meal and giving gratitude for the food that's on your table, whether it be Mother Earth and the plants or the animal that you're eating. And I think that building that habit and that process allows you to connect to the food more and have a greater appreciation for it. And for yourself, that I just cooked this really delicious meal. Like I did this, and being proud of that. And I think the more you do that, the more you can begin to like the process as well.
Yeah, I love that. I would also add engaging all of your senses while you're cooking, like smelling things, appreciating the different colors and textures, and, you know, enjoying the process of washing vegetables and cleaning them. It's just, I love it. It's so much fun. I think it also makes it more fun when you have nice kitchen tools to use, like when you love your knife, when you love your pots and have a nice cast iron pot or pan. And you don't even have to spend tons of money. You can go to a secondhand store and get a really nice cast iron pot if you're on a budget. So I think that's also a good one, right? Like you said, make it fun, make it enjoyable, do it in a way that makes you happy, set a vibe, you know, light a candle. I love to smoke weed, like on a Saturday if I'm not doing anything, and just cook some dinner and put on some music. It's so much fun.
Yeah, light a candle. And you know, if you really don't like it too, I always say make extra and then freeze it so that the nights you don't want to cook, you have homemade, good prepared food that you can pull out of the freezer. So it's like, no matter what, you make an extra portion or like multiple extra portions for them.
Yeah, and it can be simple, right? Nothing has to be super elaborate. Okay, last question. So for the person who's listening right now who is like so deep into a inflammatory diet, you know, what they call it, like the standard American diet, lots of fast food, lots of fried foods, maybe they get takeout a lot, and they really want to start making changes in their diet. They want to improve their nutrition. How can they just start? Like, where do they start? Where do they begin? Because it can feel so overwhelming.
I think the best place to begin is by making one meal a day at home. Because one thing that we learned in nutrition school that I think is so valuable is people have resistance to cutting things out. So as soon as you're like, don't have this, don't have that, people are like, oh, right? Whereas let's start on building the good habits first, and then the rest will come. So you start by making one meal a day. In a couple weeks, maybe that goes to 2 meals a day, and then 3 meals a day. And the more that you do it, the more comfortable it becomes, right? I just had a client recently who was just like, I was so overwhelmed and nervous at the start because I didn't know how to cook this way. And now it's easy and it's second nature. And that was like, it was really good to hear, because I think it just takes time to overcome that fear. And you just need to be patient with yourself that it will come and that you don't have to eat perfectly healthy tomorrow. Give it some time. And summer, we're in summer now, is a great season to try some good local produce. It's so flavorful. If you're used to eating processed food with a lot of fake flavors that, were designed to hijack your senses, essentially, real food is maybe going to not taste so great at the start because it doesn't have that fake flavoring. But summer is the season to make that transition because food is local and it's in season and it's very flavorful. So start by going to your local farmer's market and, looking up a recipe of something you like. If there's a meal that you love, look up healthy version of that. And that way you're, not giving it up. You're still making it, but just in a bit of a healthy way.
I love that. Yeah, we didn't even mention farmers markets until now. Amazing. Thank you so much, Krista. Is there anything else you want to share with people around, just this journey of gut health and healthy eating and nutrition? Anything you want to leave people with?
I would just like to say that, it's your journey and to listen to your body. You know what's best for you. Don't try and let things or you read or people kind of swayed you into different diets that, you need to try if that's going to work. Just listen to your body and, you'll also know if you feel like you need extra support, reach out because that's leaving things, if you're having a lot of symptoms appearing regularly, leaving things can turn into worse issues. So you would like to address them sooner than later because it's going to be easier and less work for you than to not. And like you said, to just kind of get started with the process. And I think that's it.
Yeah, I think hiring someone like you and working with someone like you is really that next level of commitment to your nutrition. I know that it was such a turning point for me. And even a year later, I feel like I'm still applying so many of the things that you taught me. Can you tell people a little bit about what it's like to work with you, how they can work with you, and about your program?
Yeah, if you want to check out my website, it's www.sproutyourhealth.ca. And I offer 3 programs. One is a little bit more specific for SIBO. So if you're someone who has IBS and deal with a lot of symptoms, that one might be more for you. Otherwise, I have the 6-session package, which is what you kind of went through, where we do an initial intake. I help you understand the next key things we need to focus on through our time together, and we kind of just work through different goals as we go through. So it's a very customized approach to improving your nutrition and meeting your health goals along the way. And I actually just came out with a new program that involves gut microbiome testing. So it's a initial consult with a test as well as a follow-up, and I put together kind of a plan, nutritional, lifestyle, and supplement recommendations for you going forward. And so I really love this test because it really allows you to understand what's going on. It creates a really clear snapshot of what are your bacterial levels, what do you need to work on, what do you not need to work on, which I think for some people who having results or want to know this is my issue, the testing can really help narrow that down instead of a little bit more kind of guessing through the process that we went through. It's a little bit more trial and error with what feels right for you or not. And that's it. You can follow me on Instagram. It's sprout.your.health. And I'd always be happy to chat. So if you have any specific nutrition questions, feel free to reach out. I also have a form on my website. When you book a discovery call through my website, you can add modern psychedelics to the notes, and I'll provide 15% off for your listeners.
Oh, that's so awesome. That's so great. So you guys, if you want to take that next step, just applying the tips in this podcast will really help and get you started. But if you really want to commit to it and take those next steps and get a personalized approach, definitely recommend checking out Working with Krista. Thank you so much for your time. This has been so fun.
You're welcome.
Talk to you soon. Bye. Thank you so much for listening to and supporting the show. To stay in touch, sign up for my mailing list, which can be found in the show notes or on modernpsychedelics.net. If this episode sparked something within, please let me know by leaving a review of the Modern Psychedelics podcast on Apple and Spotify. This really helps to share these messages with those who need them, which is the whole reason why I do what I do. And if you haven't already, come join the ongoing conversation over on Instagram with other beautiful souls. We have an incredible and conscious community over at the handle Modern Psychedelics. And don't forget that the work begins after you come back down to earth. And I'm standing shoulder to shoulder, doing it with you.